This is just something that I have to deal with for the rest of my life. I didn't at the time have any signs and symptoms that raised a red flag to me. He came in and he told me that I had bladder cancer, and he walked out the room with no kind of explanation. I'm sitting there, I'm crying, I'm very emotional. I was like in survivor mode, but then I became in a thriver's mode. So just learning to not only survive, but to thrive in life, even with a journey of bladder cancer. My name is Monica. I was diagnosed with non-invasive bladder cancer in 2004. I currently reside in Virginia. I enjoy spending time with my husband. We just celebrated our 25th wedding anniversary in June of 2024. We love to travel. We love going to the beach, just trying to live life every day till its fullest. I didn't at the time have any signs and symptoms that raised a red flag to me. I was getting recurrent UTIs very often, and that was usually the only time I would see blood in my urine, which is one of the signs of bladder cancer to be on the lookout for. So I would get an infection, get an antibiotic, and it would go away, and then it would come back again. Just this one particular year, I was going in to have my annual pap smear, and doing that examination, the gynecologist felt something that she thought was like over my reproductive area. She was like, I feel like a lump or something's there. And she said, I'm going to send you to get an ultrasound. So that took probably like a few days. Then I had the ultrasound. Then you had to wait another few more days to get the results back. Once I got the results back, she told me that there was something in my bladder that showed up on the ultrasound. So from that point, she referred me to a urologist. So I did go into the urologist, and this probably took the time frame was like probably over like a month and a half to two, with the appointments and following up, getting the diagnosis, getting the results back. So once I went to the urologist, they did a cystoscope and checked in, and he said, yeah, there's clearly something there. So then they had to do TURP, which is the transurethral resection of the of a tumor. And once they did that procedure, then they came back and told me that I had bladder cancer. What I like knowing more of the signs and symptoms and being more cognitive if you see some of those things, that doesn't necessarily mean that you will have bladder cancer, but it's something that will raise a red flag and say I need to have further testing with what's going on. Just I guess the whole awareness and being proactive. Very, very painful. Um, Burning, um, urgency. Uh, yeah, just the constant. It's just like I can't. It's undescribable, but very painful. And yeah, and it's like it was just coming. I'm like, okay, get the antibiotics, it's fine, and then a few months later, it's right back again. So definitely pay attention if you have that urgency, if you have that burning, if you have pain, and even if you see any kind of tint of blood. Because I've heard people say, I saw a drop, and that was it. And they didn't pay attention to it. But it was something to raise a red flag about. I was like, what is going on? What is wrong with me? Why does this keep happening? I'm drinking water, trying to flush my system out. And I just didn't understand. Nothing was really adding up to me. But I was definitely relieved when she said, okay, something's in your bladder, even though I never thought it would be cancer. But to finally find out what's going on, the reason behind what was happening to lead up to what that diagnosis was. I'm just forever thankful for the gynecologist for taking the extra step to do the ultrasound. It was like an emotional roller coaster. And the urologist that I had at that time, because like I said, be your best advocate. You're your best advocate. Um, he came in and he told me that I had bladder cancer, and he walked out the room with no kind of explanation. I'm sitting there, I'm crying, I'm very emotional. Then his nurse comes in and she said, we need to schedule you to have this done and this done. And I was just shocked. And it took me a while, just to gather myself to even drive myself home. I did end up getting another urologist because we just were not on the same page. Um, and like I say, it was just emotional. I went to the internet because I had never heard of this type of cancer, um, which was a lot of information, very overwhelming. I didn't fit any of the criteria of someone that would usually get bladder cancer. So it was a lot. Didn't see a lot of support groups that were in my area. So that was a little concerning for me. We just kept researching until I did find a organization that specifically was dealing with bladder cancer. They was involved with bladder cancer patients and caregivers. So I kind of linked up with that organization and just continue to educate myself and to educate my family and as well as my community. So I was on every 3 month checkups. So when it would get close to the 3 month checkup, I would get a call from the nurse and she's saying, "Oh, he's not available on my scheduled appointment. Can you come next week?" And it happened like one time. And then when it became repetitive, I was just like, no. Because every 3 months when I went back, the bladder cancer was back. So I didn't want to go 4 months, 6 months, you know, I wanted to stick to that 3 month schedule, not a day over or not. So it had got to the point where I called to the same urologist, to the same urology center. And I just said, I need someone else that's going to be more attentive and to be on schedule and just has my best interests at heart. So they directed me to someone else, and that's who I've had since then. And we fit. He has great bedside manner. Will draw me pictures because a lot of things. I mean, the terms they throw out are just like, what? What is that? So he drew pictures, talked to my husband and I, just explained everything in great detail of what was going to happen, what was going to be the treatment plan, and this is what we're going to do for surveillance with dealing with this journey. So just really thankful that I was able to find someone within the same group between the first and the fifth year, probably every 3 months. Every 3 months. It was bad. It was bad. It was and it was low grade, non-invasive. It didn't penetrate through my bladder, but it was just very aggressive. So they started a different type of treatment where they did mitomycin C, which I had to go in every Thursday, get a catheter, get the mitomycin C injected into the catheter. Then I had to hold it in my bladder for 2 hours. I had to come home and rotate. I never understood this, but that was the instructions. Rotate every 15 minutes from to the side up to the side up for 2 hours and then let it out. So I did a series of that for like a couple of months. And after that, it just never came. I never had a recurrence after that, thankfully. Well, currently I am doing every year. So I'm on annual surveillance. So I go in once a year. He does a scan from my waist down. And just to check to make sure everything's okay. Then I have the cystoscope. They do that as well. And then we just go from there. So that's pretty much what's been like for the last several years, annually. It's still nerve wracking. They call it what scan anxiety or something like that. It's still nerve wracking because you're just sitting there and you're wondering, okay, is it gonna find anything? Is something going to show up? So I still get a little anxiety when I go to those appointments, but this is just something that I have to deal with for the rest of my life because I have to get these surveillance for the rest of my life. The biggest thing is just not having the function of my bladder. My bladder is very weak. So of course, when I go anywhere, that is the first thing I'm looking for is where are the restrooms? Which is kind of like I'm scoping things out to make sure it's nearby. But and it's so funny because when I see, I come in contact with someone else that's going on this journey, it's the same thing for all of us. We're always looking for the restrooms, but that's like the biggest thing is not being able to hold my urine. I'm very cautious of what I drink, like so things that will make me go more frequently, caffeine or things like that. So I try to stay away from caffeine. I mostly drink water or like green tea, but just very cognitive of those type of things. Support with it looks like to me for me is that of course my husband, he's been there the whole time, walked with me every step of the way. My family and my friends, my church family. I have a support group. It's a cancer support group with women of all different types of cancer. And then I also belong to an advocacy network that specializes only in bladder cancer. So with between all of those, just keeping me well rounded, and it helps me to share my story, just to continue to talk about sharing my story, my journey with bladder cancer, and hope that it will help someone else in if they're in that situation. There was definitely a shift. And like I say, I enjoy traveling and spending time, but it wasn't like on the forefront. Now I just take advantage of all the times, whether it's meeting up with my family for the holidays or we're getting together, just talking. I just cherish those moments, and I take advantage of those moments. So if it's something that's going on and if I can be there, I'm going. Um, just trying to live every day to its fullest, not taking anything for granted. Like I said before, I still live life, but it was definitely a shift. Now I'm just like, hey, let's do this. Let's. I think I was like in survivor mode, but then I became in a thrivers mode. So just learning to not only survive, but to thrive in life, even with a journey of bladder cancer. Earlier, I thought hearing cancer was like a death sentence. It's like, oh my, it's going to be over. But just changing your mindset to just believe that everything's going to be okay, even though you might have those times where it's not going to be okay, but just keep moving forward and staying positive and doing those things that make you happy. Like I said, I love to walk, I like to journal, um, just to clear your head. And in this process, and things were getting a little difficult for me to handle, I also sought therapy to help me get through those tough times because like it's a lot to deal with at one time, and it can be overwhelming, and sometimes you just need to reach out to get additional help. I did in the beginning. I did ask why me, and then I went to why not me. I feel like we all have a plan and purpose for our life, and this was the plan and purpose for my life. Even though cancer is, no one wants to be a part of that club. to be diagnosed with cancer. However, there have been a lot of silver linings with being diagnosed, meeting some wonderful people that have become my extended family. And we've walked through these journeys. We've cried. We've been that support for one another. So like I said in the beginning, I said, why me? But then, like, why not me? I was used for this situation, and that's why I continue to share my story in hopes that it'll give somebody hope, that they're not alone, that there is help out there, and that they can get through it. Sometimes I think people are afraid to even ask their doctors questions, but it's your life, it's your body. Just being more confident and bold to ask what you need to ask and in concerns to your life and whatever treatment plan or information that you may have. If you are unfortunately diagnosed with bladder cancer, that you're not alone. Find a support group, find that doctor that match what you're looking for. Stay positive, and even though you're gonna go through some hills and valleys, just continue to stay positive, keep the faith, and just trust the process.